All right, Algebra 2, welcome back to lesson 9.2. We are going to look at the last example here today. So, for today, you guys, we're going to be referring back to the chart that we talked about last time. Quite a bit. Okay, so here's what we need to do for 4a. We're writing an equation for the parabola. They gave us the vertex, they give us the focus. What I encourage you to first do is just draw a quick sketch. Okay, so the vertex is at 1, 3. Focus is at 1, 5. Okay, so I know that this thing is going to be opening up, right? Because the focus is always on the inside of the parabola. So I know I'm going to be dealing with a y equals. Okay, and then I know since everything's in vertex form that we're talking about today, since we have a vertex, I know that part of my equation is going to include this. So it's going to be the x, whatever makes the x value go to 1, so be, or to 0, I apologize, so it'd be x minus 1 squared plus 3. The part that I don't know in the equation is the a value. Okay, so I need to find a. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of the other pieces that I know about this parabola to find that. Okay, so here's one of the pieces that's important. I know that since this focus distance here is 2, okay, if that distance is 2, by definition, the distance to the directrix on the other side of that focus should also be a distance of 2. So where that happens is this line right here, which is at that's going to be a y is equal to 1. So at y equals 1, we have the directrix. So now I've just found the equation for my directrix. Okay, and if you refer back to your chart, why that's useful is that your directrix has an a in it, which is what I need. So now that I know what the directrix is equal to, I can set that to equal this part right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this equation and plug in the pieces that I now know. So it's y equals k minus 1 over 4a. Y is equal to k minus 1 over 4a. And it's important that that a is connected to that 4 there. Okay, it's not 1/4 of a, it's 1 over 4a. That's a very important piece because of how the algebra works. Okay, so let's plug in what I know. Okay, so I know that the y value is 1. So I can say, okay, 1 is equal to, and then the k value is just the k value on the vertex. Remember that this is h comma k. Okay, so the k value would be 3 minus 1 over 4a. Okay, so let's try to get a by itself there. So let's move the 3 over by subtracting it. So I get negative 2 is equal to negative 1 over 4a. And so to get that a by itself, what I have to actually do is multiply both sides by 4a. Okay, so if I do that, I get 8a is equal to 1. Okay, I multiply both sides by negative 4a. So negative 2 times negative 4a was 8a. And then to get a by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. So I get 1/8. Okay, so now I just got to take this, plug it back into this guy for a, and that is my equation. And I know it's a little bit involved. I know it's going to take some practice. But you can always refer back to this video if you need, or that chart will be very useful. Okay, so here's my final equation for the parabola that has a vertex at 1, 3 and a focus at 1, 5. Now, for 4b, that one's a little bit different because what they gave us on this one is they gave us a focus and a directrix. And I happen to know, by definition, so you got to go back to your definitions, that the vertex is halfway between. It's halfway between the focus and the directrix. That is kind of the key here. So the focus is at 5, 6. So this is 6, this is 5, and we're here. Okay, the directrix is at negative 2, and it's an x equals. So since it's an x equals, it's on the x-axis, and it's x equals negative 2. It's this guy. Okay, so I know that the focus, or the vertex is going to be halfway between those two places. Okay, halfway between those two places. So negative 2, 6, and 5, 6, halfway is another name for midpoint. What's the midpoint of these two things? So if I add the x values together, 5 plus negative 2, I get 3, and divide by 2, that's my halfway point, which is 3 halves or 1 1/2. Okay, so 1 1/2 Boom, there's my halfway point, that's my vertex. Okay, so I get a rough idea. This thing opens like this, right? It opens like, let's see if I can switch colors here. Something like this. Okay, vertex is at 3/2, and then obviously the y value on the vertex is going to have to be 6, right? Because that didn't change at all. Okay, if you add the two 6's together, you get 12, divided by 2, that's 6, there's a midpoint. So 3/2, 6 is the vertex. So now I know, and since this thing's opening left to right, what I know is this is going to be an x equals, and then it's going to be a whatever makes the y value go to 0. So this is going to be y minus 6 squared plus 3/2. Remember that the h and the k switched when we switched the x and the y axis, or do the opposite of what we're used to. But I still have to find a. Okay, so in this case, when we're going this way, remember that the h and the k switch. So over on the other side, we said y was equal to k minus 1 over 4a. Now we're going to say x is equal to h minus 1 over 4a. Okay, so in order to do that, I know my directrix, my x value was given to me, it was -2. So I have -2 is equal to the h value, 3/2 minus 1 over 4a. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 3/2 from both sides here. And if I do that, -2 minus 1.5 is -3.5. Right, so -3.5 is equal to -1 over 4a. Let's go ahead and convert that to an improper fraction. So 2 times 3 is 6, 6 plus 1 is 7, so this is the same thing as -7/2 is equal to -1 over 4a. So now what I need to do is I need to multiply both sides by -4a. So if I do that, -7/2 times 4a, -4a over 1 would be equal to 1. Okay. So let's do a little bit of that algebra out there. So -7 times -4a is positive 28a over 2. Okay. And so to get the a by itself, we can do a couple of things here. We could first multiply both sides by 2, right? So if I multiply both sides by 2 here, I would get 28a is equal to 2. Okay, so then divide both sides by 28. I know this algebra is kind of long and there's a little bit of shortcuts here, but I want to make sure everyone understands this. So this goes away and I get a is equal to 1 over 14. So all of that work just to get the a is equal to 1 over 14. So now coming back to this, my final equation, x is equal to 1 over 14 y minus 6 squared plus 3/2. Okay, so there's kind of a lot to remember here. And it's going to take some serious practice and some, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. I remember when I first learned this, I made a lot of mistakes. It was frustrating, but just keep at it and then kind of use the back of the book in your answer there as something that is, a guide to help your understanding. But definitely be able to do one of these on your test when we have a test on this. All right, guys, that's the end of this lesson. We'll catch you guys next time.